I'm only speaking to benevolent beings. I now refuse consent for all force technologies, clones, clone attachments, artificial reality connections, astral realm connections, magic and or reversal magic, any and all entity attachments, along with all the entities trying to force those. I refuse consent for all force magic and or reversal magic, magic of any kind, any form, from any source in existence, to be forced on any level, dimension, or timeline of my being, which is to include any part and or whole of my recordings. I don't consent to any form of malevolence or any entity or being holding ill intent towards me to be on my channel and or to listen to any part or whole of my recordings. And I obviously don't consent. I refuse consent to being harmed via clone, technology, and or magic on any level, dimension, or timeline of my being, which is also to include in part and or in whole any of my recordings. Moving forward, when they go to shut off the fence, some of the first things that you should be doing is asking universal laws to locate all, any and all entities, groups, demons, parasites that have been using technology, clones, and magic trying to rape you against the revocation of your consent. The next would be pulling back anything raped from you, including the totality of your astral body, in your true, authentic, organic, alive, healed, benevolent state, back to within your physical being, devoid of all clones, magic, and technologies. Releasing all forced fear, trauma, harm, and pain. Including those being forced via technology, clones, and magic. If there's any benevolent beings that have been listening to any of my recordings at this point, with your own experiences and all of that, you should be aware of how they've been running and operating the shit show and what they have been trying to do and force with the tech. You have to ask yourselves, what happened to all these prior civilizations? You also have to question these other supposed benevolent groups and races and their lack of assistance, their lack of manifested assistance here. And what their true agenda is. And if whether or not they've been assisting the reptilians and if they are in any way benefiting off of what the reptilians have been forcing here. Are those groups and races in higher dimensions? How is it that they're there if they're complicit? Right? You have to look at all the pieces and really see what these whores have been doing. It's also, at this point, we have to question the universe itself. These bitches are dead. And they're parasites. They shouldn't be here, and that technology is not allowed here. So they've been operating here for a very long time. Why hasn't the universe itself corrected it? Yes, they've been using tech to obstruct universal law manifested correction here. But in addition to that, if it's true that beings, true benevolent beings, are directly connected to the universe and or interconnected, then the universe itself should be fully aware of what's been being forced here with technology, especially with as many beings fucking screaming here. So is the universe just so obtuse and unaware of what's they've been trying to force with technology and the dead parasites that have been trying to do that? Or is it that the universe itself is parasitic and complicit? When that fence comes down, it's also would be a good idea, or on the safe side, to be refusing consent for all forced harm. Originating from the universe itself. Now, there are those that aren't going to agree with that. Again, I would just ask you to look at their use of tech in obstructing universal law manifested correction here and how long they've been doing that. And why hasn't it been corrected? Are they getting outside assistance? I would say most, if not all, of those supposed benevolent groups and races are actually parasites and are complicit. I mean, if you're a truly benevolent being and you know that, and let's say that being is in a higher dimension, and they've been observing what's going on here, and they know that the reptilians are using tech to forcibly obstruct manifested correction here, knowing that at some point chickens come home to roost, right? At some point that's going to affect them, their homes, their planets, their star systems. So it's also their responsibility to assist here, especially if they claim to have kin here. Especially if they know that the reptilians are using tech to hack into beings. Like, that's not a learning scenario. That's a dead parasite problem. That's a parasitic infection. Using tech they shouldn't be using. So, you know, when the fence comes down, be pulling back, back to your being everything that you think has been raped from you. Devoid of all technologies, clones, and magic. And devoid of all harm to you. Basically, you know, that's when the fence comes down is when you really need to start working, is what I'm saying. So now is a good time to really figure out what's yours and what's not yours. And be preparing. Be really figuring out exactly what you're gonna be doing when you realize that they've shut off the fence. They've been using the tech to try and rape, trying to rape things that don't belong to them. They've been using the tech to try and wear and use things that don't belong to them. I mean, they shouldn't still be here. The universe itself should have already corrected all of this, should have removed them from existence, and should have terminated it, at the very least, the fence. And when you start questioning, you know, asking about all those other prior civilizations, and what happened, you know, with those. And these supposed benevolent groups and races are claiming to be in higher dimensions, right? I mean, just extrapolate. Knowing what these bitches have been trying to force with the tech, right? Connect all the dots. And once you do that, you should have a pretty good picture of, you know, what's happened in the past here and what the entities are now trying to do. So hopefully you're knowing yourselves well, knowing what's yours and not yours, refusing consent, releasing, you know, all forced fear, trauma, harm, and pain, and the entities trying to force those. Standing in your power and authority. And, you know, preparing for when they shut off the fence. All right, till next time.